Hey, everybody, it's Matt. This is Fantasy Football Almost Daily. We're back again with our hybrid format of Fantasy Friday and our DFS show. Today, it's me and Trevor giving you all the info you need to dominate the divisional round. But first, a quick shout out to our listeners. If you've subscribed to the show, thank you so much. If you've given us a great rating or review, you're amazing, and we thank you for that as well. And if you haven't done either of those, what are you waiting for? There's never been a better time than right now. This weekend on Fanball, it's stacked with amazing contests, and they're filling a little bit faster than normal. So if you want to get involved, you better get on it right now. We've got a $20 divisional Peacock contest that runs through all 4 of our divisional round games. It starts Saturday, so you're going to want to get your spot reserved soon, or you can't win the $1,000 top prize. We've got also a $10 Saturday showdown and a $10 Sunday showdown. Both are super flex games. Both are, you guessed it, $10 to play, and both narrow down the player pool to just that respective day. $500 to first on Saturday, $600 to first on Sunday. Both of these contests sold out rather quickly last week. If you use the promo code ALMOST when you make a deposit to Fanball, we'll match your deposit up to $20 just for being a fan of the show. That's like a free entry to both the Saturday and Sunday showdowns. Ooh, that's pretty cool. By the way, next week, Fanball 5 is coming up. A big, huge $2,000 top prize in Fanball 5. You're not going to want to miss that. Get ready. Get your Fanball, juice going again. Let's go. All right, let's kick it off with a little Tate music. Here we go.
From the Sports Hub Games Network, this is Fantasy Football Almost Daily with your host, Matt Harrison.
Oh, hi, Trevor.
Hey, Matt.
With me today, it's Trevor Jones, and we have to lead off the show with Trevor's thoughts on the Bears-Packers game last week. I mean, Maj got the best of you in the end. It looked like it was going to be cruise control for the Packers, but the Bears just wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, from what I remember, because I'd had a few drinks after things went south. Yeah, honestly, a tough season, and like, if that's how they were going to play, they never really had a shot at the Super Bowl, anyways. So, get out now. We'll get a better pick in the second round because we don't have a first.
There you go. All right. Today we're going to deep dive into all 4 of the divisional games, and we're going to do it from the lens of the Fanball DFS values as well. For instance, a $3,500 player might be gold just because of their Fanball price tag and matchup, but normally they'd be a bronze grade in a traditional fantasy lineup. Again, you can use this information in just about any other DFS platform, as most of it transfers over. If you're playing in a fantasy playoff league, this show probably helps you build those rosters too. Like, I'm in the NFFC internal hold'em we have here within our company. I'm using this information to go ahead and fill out my lineup there. So, Trevor, we flipped a coin fictitiously. You got the AFC, I took the NFC, which means we're going to go in chronological order, and we're going to start with you first. The Bills and the Broncos are the first game on the docket. Last I saw, Bills were 1.5 point favorites on the road as the 6th seed at the 1 seed who just had their bye. Has that ever happened before where the 1 seed wasn't favored in the divisional round coming off their bye?
That's a good question. I would assume, what was that Titans team that was the 1 seed that was like the worst 1 seed like 4
Everybody
or 5 years
hated
ago?
them, maybe.
Yeah, although I'm trying to think if they lost to Baltimore, or maybe they beat Baltimore to get to the AFC title game. But it's certainly been a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're betting on the Bills, you're basically betting on Josh Allen, right?
That's correct. Yep. Josh is a goal, 7,300. Denver, I mean, this Denver defense is excellent, but Josh is matchup proof. These 2 teams faced off last year's in the playoffs. Josh had 272 and 2 touchdowns, 46 yards on the ground as well. Although this Broncos team is obviously a much better team than last year's. Allen's been forced to run more recently. His below-average pass-catching group just keeps piling up injuries. They just lost, I think, Tyrell Shavers and Gabe Davis last week. Mm-hmm. So Allen's had at least 7 carries in 6 straight games. He's got 6 rushing touchdowns in that span. In Denver's 6 games post the bye, they've given up 26 points or more 3 times. So it's not an impenetrable defense. They've also struggled with dual threat quarterbacks recently. Marcus Mariota dropped 350 total yards and 2 touchdowns on them in week 13. And then in week 16, Trevor Lawrence had 299 total yards and 4 total touchdowns. Allen's going to be asked to put on the cape. I mean, if Buffalo wins, it's because of Josh Allen. His one pass catcher I feel pretty good about is Khalil Shakir at 5,000. I gave him a silver grade. Shakir spends most of his time in the slot, so he's not going to get a ton of Pat Surtain, which is good, obviously. In addition to having that great matchup in the slot, Shakir also had 12 catches on 12 targets in the wild card round. No other Buffalo pass catcher had more than 5 targets or 3 catches, so Allen's just kind of locked on to Shakir in the mid-range. He only produced 82 yards on those 12 catches, but at 5K, that's more than enough to get us where we need to go. Brandon Cooks is viable. He gets a bronze here, 3,600.
It certainly is viable.
That's about the nicest thing you can say about him right now.
Yeah.
So his last 2 games that he caught a pass in where he went 4 for 101 and 3 for 58. So not terrible. Like I said, they just lost Tyrell Shavers and Gabe Davis. Those guys ran 54 and 43% of the snaps last week. Cooks was at 48%, so we should expect that number to rise pretty significantly. They're just running out of bodies. Cooks isn't good enough to draw shadow coverage from Pat Surtain, so he will get some run against number 2 corner Riley Moss, who was the most targeted defensive back in the league. Keon Coleman is 3,200. He's talented and his role should expand, but he's got 7 catches in like 8 weeks. It's just kind of a GPP dart throw. The tight ends, I'm going to give Dalton Kincaid a bronze at 4,400. Opposing tight ends have had the most success of any position group against the Denver defense, which doesn't say much because they're just good against everybody. But it was a bottom half of the league tight end defense for Denver. Kincaid is one of 2 actual NFL receiving options, along with Shakir, as far as like guys we drafted and expected to play real snaps.
Well, and there has to be an uptick just because there's no wide receivers left.
Exactly. So Kincaid gets the bronze. He's only got 3 touchdowns since week 5, but he did score once last week. I'm actually giving Dawson Knox at 3,300 a silver. Like you said, we're just going to need more tight ends and backup receivers to play. Knox has more yardage than Kincaid last week on the same amount of catches. And actually, Knox has 3 games of 10+ Fanball points this year. Kincaid has 6 such games. I actually prefer Knox at the price. And then James Cook. This is not a great spot for James Cook. 7,400. It's probably the worst matchup he's seen all year. Since Denver's week 12 bye, they've allowed 1 running back to clear 50 yards. And that was Josh Jacobs at 73. They held Ashton Genty to 30, Travis Etienne to 50, even in a game where Etienne, the Jags put up 35 points. Broncos finished the season top 5, rush yards, receptions, and receiving yards allowed to backs. Cook did see all but one of the running back touches in the wild card round, so he should get a big workload. He's got at least 17 touches in every game that he's finished since week 5. I'm giving him a bronze as kind of a GPP play only because I don't think he's going to get any ownership. So I think that's kind of the angle with James Cook. On the other side, we'll go with Denver passing game. Bo Nix gets a silver at 6,100. It is a tough matchup for him. Buffalo's top 5 and fewest completions, yards, and passing touchdowns allowed. But they do show some cracks against dual threats as they permitted a bottom 5 mark in rushing yards allowed to signal callers. And we know Bo is a big scrambler. He's averaging 7 carries per game over his last 4, so he should be able to take advantage there. Also, Bo Nix's best 4 fantasy games all came at home this year. So he's confines of Mile High again this week. Cortland Sutton, his top target, gets a silver as well, 6,000. Prior to the low-scoring Week 18 Chargers game, Sutton had double-digit targets at 4 straight. He'd put up 6, 7, 6, and 4 catches in those. As I mentioned with Bo Nix, the Bills' pass defense is very good. Prior to Parker Washington's 107-yard mark last week, Buffalo hadn't let a receiver clear the 100-yard mark since Drake London in Week 6. However, Sutton's the centerpiece of the passing offense. I expect he gets 9 to 10 targets as a home, not a home favorite, a home slight home dog. The remaining receivers in order of preference, I'm actually going Pat Bryant second at 3,400. He's been on the field the most recently of all the kind of ancillary guys. And Troy Franklin at 4,800 is strictly a 1%, deep threat kind of play. Evan Ingram, he's on the bench. It's the toughest tight end defense in the league. He's got 1 touchdown all season. And then RJ Harvey gets a gold as well here. He gets 6,500 for the Broncos leading back. Well, the Bills' pass defense is good. Their run defense is horrendous. Bottom 5 marks, yards per carry, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. They've given up over 200 rushing yards 4 times this season already. Last week, Travis Etienne and Bashal Tutin combined for 14 carries, 118 yards, over 8 yards per carry. Harvey's been the man since J.K. Dobbins went down halfway through the season. He's got at least 16 touches in 5 of his last 6 games and 6 touchdowns during that stretch. So it's kind of just Harvey right now, and it's a great matchup.
I was kind of wondering during that Bills-Jaguars game last week why the Jags went away from the run. Only 14 carries for those two combined, and they seem to be just gashing the Bills' defense like left and right. Like, why stop?
I agree. That was weird. 8 yards a carry. That's I would just keep doing that until they stop me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next game is on Saturday, and it's a rematch of a Saturday night game from 2 weeks ago. This time it's in Seattle, though, as the Niners take on the Seahawks. Can't talk anymore, geez. Seattle comes in as 7-point favorites in this one, and let's start with the easy thing here. It's Christian McCaffrey. He's the highest point scorer amongst running backs in Wild Card Weekend and was the second most expensive player on the slate at 8,700. It's hard to overlook that price tag and the fact that Seattle basically shut him down only 2 weeks ago. He only had 57 total yards on 14 touches. It did help that 6 of them were receptions, so he still climbed to a really meager 11.7 points. And if he does that again, you're in trouble. But as soon as Kittle went down in the game last week, they leaned on CMC in the passing even more, especially in the second half. He had 2 receiving touchdowns, 6 catches for 66 through the air. A lot of that was just in the second half alone. If the Niners are going to show up at all, it's because McCaffrey got way more than 14 touches. I've got a silver grade on him. If you bake in the tough matchup and the high price tag, that's where I get to. But you can't deny the talent and the opportunity here. I mean, I don't think that San Fran's going to be held to 3 points again. And if they're not held to 3 points, it's because McCaffrey's at 20 or 30 touches in this game. He's like one of the few guys who has an outside shot at 30 touches in a game. I don't think that you can completely bypass him in this one. Brock Purdy is 5,900. That's the 6th most expensive quarterback on the slate this week. He had 127 yards and a pick in the matchup 2 weeks ago. But 262 and 2 scores last week against a pretty good Eagles defense. He also threw 2 picks in that game, but that's part of the Brock Purdy experience a little bit. That Seattle game is the one in the last 5 where he didn't throw for multiple touchdown passes and he didn't hit at least 260 yards. So I'm kind of optimistic here. It's a low price and he does have the talent to have that big game. There's hockey stick upside here. I'll still give him a silver grade, and I'm willing to start him in a few lineups this week. As for the wide receivers, that's a little more dicey. Ricky Pearsall, we're going to start with him. He's 5,200. He did get in a limited practice session on Wednesday, and they said he's going to try to go in full on Thursday. And I haven't seen the report. We're recording on Thursday. What do we do? But he did run at full speed on Wednesday, and in one of the reports I saw, the Niners are using GPS tracking on him to determine whether he's ready or not. So they must think that his speed is good enough that they're still practicing him. If they didn't think he was going to be ready for Saturday, they'd probably just shut him down at this point and hope he's ready for the NFC Championship game if they get there. So I'd say it looks pretty likely that he's going to go on Sunday or Saturday, I should say. Now, the other wide receiver options are Juwan Jennings. He's 5,600. And somewhat out of nowhere, Demarcus Robinson, 4,100, who had 6 catches, 111 yards, and a score against the Eagles last week. The last time Demarcus Robinson had an output of over 20 PPR points was last year as a member of the Rams in Seattle against these Seahawks. Woo! It's not that much different of a defense, right? He went for 6 catches, 94 yards, and 2 scores in that game. Jennings did not score last week in Philly or the week before against the Seahawks, but he's had a touchdown in 7 of the last 8 prior games. So what does this all boil down to? There's tremendous upside for each of these players, but the floor is basically 0 for all of them. I landed on bronze grades for all 3, but my order for Fanball purposes would be Robinson at the lowest price, then Jennings, because I think there's safety there and he has a chance to get 1 touchdown the most, and then Pearsall, who's a complete unknown at this point, but he could get targeted a lot in the game. The receiver that I like the most is Jake Tonjes, though. He's at 3,400. Besides McCaffrey, he's got the best matchup out of all the Niners receivers, and when Kittle is out, Tonjes just tends to take his role. For instance, week 16 in Indianapolis, George Kittle had 7 catches, 115 yards, and a score. Tonjes had 1 catch for 7 yards. That's a normal game when Kittle's in play. But Kittle got hurt that week, and the Niners went straight to Tonjes the next week. Where was it? Oh, here we go. Kittle, Tonjes had 9 targets in that game. Ooh, 9 times. Hit that son of a. There we go. I hit the button too hard. He had 9 targets in that game, 7 catches, 60 yards, and a score against the Bears. Now, Kittle came back in week 18. The Niners targeted him 7 times in that week 18 loss. So I see at least a similar target share for Tonjes. So 7 targets for a guy who's 3,400. He's in play. The fact that the Seahawks allowed the 5th most receptions and yards to tight ends this year also plays in his favor. I've got a silver grade on Jake Tonjes in this one. Over on the Seattle side, JSN, he'll cost you a pretty penny, 8,300 this week, but it's hard not to put a gold grade on him. He has not scored since week 16, and he hasn't topped 100 yards since week 15. But I imagine the Niners try to shadow cover him with Diamador Lenore, who's been their best cover corner. He hasn't allowed a score since week 15. He's allowing an average of 29 yards in his coverage over the last 4 games, which includes some games against some good receivers in the Bears, Seahawks, and Eagles. I still got a gold on JSN. I wavered just a little bit because of the price tag, and I think that they do try to shadow him with Lenore. Cooper Kupp is 3,500. Rashid Shaheed, 4,000. They're both on the bench for me. Kupp had 2 for 29 in the last meeting. Shaheed had 1 catch for 2 yards. They both catch like 1 to 3 balls per game. If I had to pick one, I'd take Kupp. He's cheaper, and he gets a couple of more targets per game. AJ Barner is 3,500. He's totally touchdown dependent. If he scores, he returns value. If he doesn't, he has no chance of getting to 10 points. He scored 2 receiving touchdowns since week 6, so he's on the bench. Sam Darnold is 5,700, and if the blueprint is just to hold the Niners to 3 points again, Darnold probably won't be asked to do much. He was 20 for 26 in that game, 198 yards last time out, no touchdowns. He's thrown for multiple passing touchdowns just once in his last 4 games, and he hasn't hit the 300-yard passing mark since week 9. He has nothing on the ground. He's topped just 10 rushing yards only twice since week 5, and he has no rushing scores on the season. But there is like this weird scenario where the Seahawks defense just can't shut down San Francisco like they did 2 weeks ago. And I don't think it's that weird of a scenario. Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. He's going to scheme up some good stuff. I think they have to let Darnold loose in that game if San Francisco starts scoring like he did against the Rams in week 16. If Darnold comes out to play, he's probably going to finish as a top 3 quarterback this week at the 2nd lowest price tag. So I've got a silver grade on Darnold, but you have to hope it's a shootout. And that's a little dicey there. And then the running backs, Ken Walker is 5,700. Zach Charbonnet is 5,800. No, it's still about as split as a backfield as it can be, but with one difference. Walker has 1 touchdown in his last 7 games. Charbonnet has 6 touchdowns in his last 7 games, and he gets almost all the red zone work. They both managed to get to 17 Fanball points in the week 18 matchup. That was a ground and pound game. I don't think San Francisco is going to let that happen again. The Niners allowed the 2nd most receptions to running backs this year. Other than that, they were a mid-tier defense versus the run, but neither of these backs catches the ball very much at all. Charbonnet averages just over 1 reception per game. Walker gets 1.6, so neither of them are really pass catchers. So I got Charbonnet as a silver because it's a low price and he does score, and Walker as a bronze because he doesn't score. You're going to have to get it all in point value some other crazy direction.
I think the Niners played some good run defense last week, too, against that Eagles team. I mean, I know that the Eagles offensive line is beat up a little bit, but
Eric Kendricks, Super Bowl MVP. Here it comes. Woo!
Shout out Eric Kendricks, man. 34
out
years
of
old.
nowhere. All right, let's move on to the Sunday games, Trevor. The Texans defense came up big Monday night against Aaron Rodgers, but they go to Foxborough as 3-point underdogs. Which Texans would you build a lineup with against these Pats?
Yeah, not a lot of them. So this game's over-under is 40.5, which is 4.5 points lower than the next closest game. The other 3 are like 45, 46, 48. So if you got like tiebreakers between, Nico Collins and James Cook or something, I would probably use the game environment as the tiebreaker, and this is not a good game environment. So just
is Nico Collins even going to go with that concussion?
Yeah, well, I guess we'll start there then. He's 7,300. He was not practicing on Wednesday, and obviously they played Monday, so it's a short week to try to clear that concussion protocol. If he does, I'll give him silver. The Patriots did allow 17 wide receiver touchdowns this year, a bottom half of the league mark. Collins has really kind of been surviving on efficiency alone, though. He's only had more than 4 catches just once since week 12. Still, he's clearly Houston's best pass catcher, and he'd be a big factor if he were to play. I do expect him to miss as of now. And I'd also say that the Pats' number 1 corner, Christian Gonzalez, is also coming off of a concussion, but he did get in a limited practice on Wednesday. CJ Stroud, I'm just 5,400. He gets the GPP bronze. Stroud just hasn't been a quality fantasy quarterback this year. Only 4 games over 18 Fanball points. And the most recent of those games came against Arizona and San Fran after the Fred Warner and Nick Bosa injuries. So those are 2 of the toughest defenses in the league. Toughest as in worst. The Patriots are middling past D. Stroud might not have Nico Collins, obviously. If Nico Collins misses, I'm not playing Stroud. We're not doing that. If he does play, you can throw him in for GPPs, but Houston's defense just makes it so hard to get into a good fantasy environment. I mean, if Houston doesn't give up more than 20 points, basically, so it's
if Houston's winning this game, it's like they give up 16 points to the Pats, and they figure out a way to cobble together 18, and it's 3 or 4 Kaimi Fairbairn kicks and like a random Dalton Schultz touchdown, right?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's going to be like concentration. Without Nico Collins, there won't be a concentration, and I don't think there's an explosion outcome in the midst here. So we'll go to the other pass catchers. Jaden Higgins at 4,700, Christian Kirk 4,200. So if Collins does miss, the 3 receiver sets would likely be Higgins, Xavier Hutchinson on the outside, and then Christian Kirk in the slot. Higgins scored a touchdown in both week 17 and 18, but he did just have 2 catches in each game. He has just 9 catches total in his last 5. He kind of gets the GPP bronze if no Collins. I'm going to give Christian Kirk a silver, though. He took off without Nico Collins getting hurt there. 8 for 144 and 1 in the wild card round. New England's been hit by slot receivers in the past month, like Zay Flowers for 7 for 84 and a rushing touchdown. Khalil Shakir caught all 5 of his targets for 65 yards. So Kirk gets a silver at that price. Dalton Schultz at 4,000. He kind of gets the Shibuichi half bronze, half silver. New England's a bottom 3rd tight end defense against receptions and receiving yards. Without Nico in week 18, Schultz took advantage, going 4 for 73. So he was second on the team in both catches and yards. And he's had a nice floor with 3 or more catches in 10 of his last 11. It's not fun, but he's a reasonable play. And then Woody Marks at 5,600. It's not at all. Woody Marks is at 5,600. It's not a great spot for him. Patriots have a top 10 run defense. I would say their one weakness is pass catching backs, but that doesn't really help here because Woody Marks has just 4 catches in the last 5 games. He is coming off the season high in rushing yards with 112, but he needed 19 carries to get there. Prior to last week, he'd broken 70 rushing yards just twice all year. This is another like GPP bronze. Like just go for the low owned. That's kind of the only angle with a lot of these Texans. The Patriots side isn't a ton better. Drake May gets a silver at 6,600. It's easily the toughest matchup he's seen all year. Houston's D allows less than 19 completions per game, just 200 passing yards, and the fewest rushing attempts and 0 rushing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. That's obviously important with Drake on the move. Drake did have 10 rushing attempts in his first playoff game, which was one of his higher marks of the season. And it's a trend we see with guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen in the playoffs where, hey, it's nut cutting time. I'm going to run a few more times in this one. In his 18 games this season,
Wait, Trevor, what does that phrase mean?
Nut cutting? Well, see, Christmas just passed.
We're going to put a pin in that one.
When you get, roasted assorted nuts, you cut them open, I think.
Hazelnuts, for sure.
Yeah, yep. May's be able to reach 20 Fanball points just 5 times. He's a good floor play, and he's still got a decent ceiling, I think. Steph Diggs at 5,900. I'm giving him a bronze. His snap percentages in the month before the playoff game, 50, 59, 52, and 46. It did rise in the playoffs, but just to 62%. He's going to see plenty of first-team All-Pro corner Derek Stingley, which is not ideal. Houston's an excellent pass defense, top 5 in catches, yards, and touchdowns allowed to enemy wideouts. The volume keeps him in play with the bronze. Pop Douglas has 5 catches in his last 4 games. We're not doing that. Kayshon Boutte at 3,700 is actually kind of interesting. He ran a route on over half of Drake's dropbacks last week, despite being limited with a hamstring injury all week. And he came back with a 4 for 66, which isn't terrible. Boutte was not on the Pats Wednesday injury report at all, so he should see another snap boost here with, again, another AFC East pass catching core that's kind of just losing bodies. So he's going to get a bronze.
A booty boost?
Is that what you could do with a tush push with booty? It would be the booty boost.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't know if he's got the size to maybe do that. But, Hunter Henry at 4,900. He gets a bronze as well. He's been excellent recently. He's cleared double-digit Fanball points in 4 straight, 6 of his last 7. It's also got 4 touchdowns in those 7 games. Houston tight end defense isn't incredible like it is against quarterbacks and receivers. It's still pretty good. But you remember Trey McBride had a nice game against them. Massive game, I should say, near the end of the season. He gets a bronze. And then at the end here, we got Ramondre and Travion Henderson. They're both 5,900. Since the week 14 bye for the Pats, both of them have produced. Ramondre has 55 touches and 6 touchdowns. Travion 64 touches and 4 touchdowns. Ramondre's been the preferred pass catching back. He's got 15 catches during that span to Henderson's just 4. Houston's played quality run defense all year, allowing less than 4 yards per carry. They have been a little more susceptible to pass catching running backs. So I'm going to give Ramondre a silver here and Travion a bronze. It really feels like Ramondre is the guy they trust with the season on the line here.
I definitely agree that it's Ramondre right now over Henderson. All right, good job. Final matchup is Sunday night, and it looks like an absolute doozy. The Rams and the Bears. Highest over-under at 48.5. It's the one that I want to see the most out of all these games this weekend. The Rams come in on the road as 3.5-point favorites as well. And is that like it's 2 road favorites in the divisional round? That doesn't happen very often. We'll start with Matthew Stafford. He's 6,800. He's the second most expensive quarterback on the board. And I don't know how you could think he's not a gold in this one. The Bears defense is maybe the weirdest one left in the playoffs. They gave up 303-3 to Purdy through the air 3 weeks ago, 331-1 to Goff in week 18, 323-4 to Jordan Love in the wild card round last week. It included 3 first half touchdowns. And then they randomly will stop quarterbacks for the entire fourth quarter. So Stafford might have to get it all done in the first 3 quarters. But yeah, I think that the Bears are going to leak at least 2 to 3 touchdown passes to Stafford in this one. So I got a gold grade on him. And most likely Puka Nacua gets at least one of those. He's the most expensive player this week at 8,900, and he's still a gold grade despite that price tag. Even though Stafford and Puka might hamstring you a bit in the rest of your lineups, if you combine them, if you're building more than one Fanball lineup, you have to have at least one lineup with a Stafford Puka stack to start. Puka has at least 10 catches or more in 3 of his last 4 games. He's scored 6 times in the last 4 weeks. That includes a rushing score last week. He's Puka. He's awesome. Devontae Adams is 6,800. He's the 4th most expensive option, really the 3rd most if Nico Collins doesn't go. He was back in full force last week. 13 targets. Maybe he had to knock off a little bit of the rust, though, as he only caught 5 of them for 72 scoreless yards. But guess who has tortured the Bears in his past? It's Devontae Adams. He's played 17 games against them, which is a full NFL season in his life. He has a very, very good 88 catches, 1,081 yards, and 10 touchdowns against them. That would have been wide receiver 7 in PPR this year had Devontae Adams just played the Bears for his entire career. So
that's lower than I would have thought, honestly.
I thought he was going to have more touchdowns as well, but he did have like a Raiders matchup in there, or a couple of
sure.
like dumb stuff like that where, he wasn't getting the ball. So I've that a gold grade on Adams as well. 4 different Packers wide receivers scored against the Bears last week. Sorry, Trevor.
Well, that was the fun part.
I couldn't believe they got gold and a touchdown and everything. And
I know. It was all coming up roses.
You check off all the boxes. They did what they needed to do, and they still lost the game. Crazy.
Still they didn't. Yep.
Colby Parkinson is 3,800. Tyler Higbee is 3,300. Parkinson had the touchdown catch last week, and he dominated the snap share again. But Higbee had 2 catches for 45 yards last week. He was on the field for just over 50% of the snaps. And Higbee ended up with 5 catches, 91 yards, and a score in the week 18 matchup with the Cards. To be honest, if you're getting dirty and you got to get there at the tight end position, I don't mind either of these two. The Bears allowed the 9th most receptions to tight ends this year. And if you're going to get Puka and Stafford in your lineup, this is kind of a hedge on a random touchdown going to somebody else. You pick Parkinson or Higbee, bronze grades for both of them. It stayed a split between Kyren Williams and Blake Corum last week. You might not have thought it, but it did. 15 touches for Kyren, 75 combo yards. Kyren got the receiving score. Corum had 13 touches, 58 combo yards. He didn't score, though. The difference between these two is only basically the price. You have to pay $6,700 for Kyren, and you get a $2,000 discount on Corum at $4,700. The matchup is decent if the Rams want to slow down the game too. The Bears are allowing 4.8 yards per carry on the season. That's fourth most in the league. I've got a silver grade for both runners, but here's what I think you do with it. I don't think you put Kyren or Corum in any lineups that you have Stafford and Puka. I think you skip it. I think you go, nope, this game's going to be a slow plodding game, and that's where I'm going to go. And then I think you go Corum because you get such a big discount on him. But I think I split him away from my Stafford Puka lineups, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you don't want Corum like sniping goal line touchdowns from Stafford and Puka. Like if you're going for a GPP, top percentile outcome. Yeah.
Let's go over to the Bears side where the running backs, it's not as much of a split as you'd think. DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai are splitting, but it's more like a 2/3 for Swift and a 1/3 for Monangai now. Swift is 6,100. Monangai is 4,900. The discount isn't nearly as deep as the Rams side either. So out of all the running backs in this game, Swift's the one I like the most. He scored 5 times in the last 5 weeks, including a rushing score last week against Green Bay. Monangai hasn't scored once in the last 6 weeks. He gets some good change of pace yards, and he's got the burst and everything, and it looks flashy and it looks really good. But I think he needs to spring one from distance in order to score right now. I think Swift's getting all the work inside. The Rams did allow Chuba Hubbard randomly to take over the backfield last week. He had 15 touches, 59 combo yards, and 2 touchdowns. Just randomly took it away from Rico Dowdle, of course. That effort by Hubbard seems like very Swifty, right? 50 to 60 combo yards with a chance at 1 score, maybe 2. Seems very Swift. So silver for Swift. I'm leaving Monangai on the bench. Caleb Williams is just ridiculous right now. And at Fanball, you don't get penalized for interceptions. So it's even better to play Caleb Williams. So he's 6,200. He's probably going to be down by double digits in the fourth quarter, have a crappy looking stat line, and then suddenly he becomes the love child of John Elway and Randall Cunningham, and he wills his team back into it. The Rams are an okay defense. That's it. My money's on Caleb scoring some points here. Can the Rams outscore him is my only question. I think the clock strikes midnight for the Bears and the Rams win this game, but I've still got a gold grade for Caleb, and I think especially late in the game, I think he's going to go bananas yet again. Colston Loveland is up to 6,000, and it's about time that level of respect is put on him. He's the most expensive tight end on the slate by quite a bit. After his last 3 games, I don't know how you can ignore him anymore. He might be tight end 1 in fantasy drafts next year. In the last 3 weeks, he's had 3 games of 21 or more Fanball points, target totals of 10, 13, and 15, reception totals of 6, 10, and 8, yardage totals of 94, 91, and 137, touchdowns in 2 of the 3 games, had a 2-pointer last week. He's the security blanket for Caleb, maybe the best receiver on the roster. He's priced as such this week. I've got a silver grade on him for only 2 reasons. The price is really up there for tight ends, and I've got a lot of expensive guys I want in my lineup this week. And the Rams haven't given up too many huge days to tight ends. Kittle had the only 20-plus point outburst this year against the Rams. Trey McBride played him twice. He was held to 13 and 10. Tyler Warren got to 18, but he needed a rushing score to get there. It feels like it might be a little bit of a struggle for Loveland to get to that 3x value and get to 18 points. I still like him. I still think he's probably in the 15-point range. I think it's just going to be really difficult for him to explode in this one. And it's because I kind of like their receivers a little bit too. In order of expense, it's DJ Moore at 5,300, Rome Odunze at 5,100, Luther Burden at 4,900. Moore had 7 targets, 6 catches, 64, and a touchdown last week. Odunze was a little bit off in his return, only caught 2 of his 6 targets for 44 yards. Luther Burden had 7 targets. He caught 3 for 42 yards. So the targets were pretty much an even split. Moore was kind of leaned on more in the key situations, though. So I think the pricing is right here. And I think the Bears will try to scheme at the corner weak spot for the Rams, which is Emmanuel Forbes. He's allowed 7 touchdowns in his coverage this year. And I looked up what Pro Football Focus thought the projected snaps against Forbes would be. They said Odunze was going to get the most snaps against Forbes, followed by Moore, and then Burden, just because he normally gets the fewest snaps. He's usually the third receiver on the field. So Burden has the crazy upside, but he's a super low floor. He gets a bronze. Odunze has probably similar upside to Burden, maybe a little bit higher floor. I've got a silver on Odunze. And Moore's probably more of a capped upside, but I think he's probably the safest play. So I've got a silver on DJ Moore as well. Trevor, what do you think about the Bears? What like, how are you building lineups with this Bears Rams game? It's a good way to go into what's your lineup for this week.
Yeah, right. Let me start with this. If you need 2 out of 3, Puka, JSN, CMC, who are you leaving off?
I think I'd leave JSN off.
I think so too. Yeah. That's what I've got right now. So my lineup, we got Bo Nix and Josh Allen at QB, CMC, RJ Harvey, running backs, Puka, Khalil Shakir, Booty, Dawson Knox at tight end, and then DJ Moore at flex. That DJ Moore spot's tough because it's like, yeah, you can get to Rome, you can get to Luther Burden, you can get to Khalil Shakir if he wasn't already in there. There's like 5 or 6 guys that kind of project pretty similarly in that spot. And also at tight end there, Dawson Knox. Like, I mean, you brought up Higbee, Parkinson, Tungus. Like, there's actually a ton of kind of viable tight ends on this slate.
Yeah, you can get pretty cheap at the tight ends and at that wide receiver tight end position on Fanball. I think you almost have to go a tight end there, at least one of the cheap ones. So you could get away with like a Tungus and Higbee or Parkinson kind of lineup there and save a ton of money and then really be able to plug in whatever running backs and wide receivers you want the rest of the way.
Yeah, and I'd say for your tight end, like since they're all kind of bit of a dart throw anyways, just kind of who do you think is going to score the most points and just kind of throw that dart at that tight end.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited for this weekend. The divisional round is always my favorite football weekend of the year. It's the best 8 teams. It's the best 4 games. It's really going to be exciting this week. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be a good weekend.
All right. Well, if you want to get some skin in the game, I'll remind you that there's still some time left to grab a spot in any of the Fanball contests we have this weekend. We've got a $20 Peacock. That's all weekend long. It's got a top prize of $1,000. There's the $10 Saturday and Sunday showdown contest, $500 first prize on Saturday, $600 first prize on Sunday. There's a $5 high five that has a top prize of $400. That goes all weekend. And then there's also a Saturday 5x5 and a Sunday 5x5, both $5 to play, both $250 to the winner. So come play with us on Fanball and get geared up for Fanball 5. And I think next week on the show, I'm going to read off the users who've won the previous Fanball. Yeah. We got the record of them.
Fanball winners.
Fanball 5 is big. Fanball. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Maybe someday we'll sponsor an actual terrible bowl game and call it Fanball.
The Fanball.
Yeah, like one of those college ones where it's like Appalachian State and Northwest Southeastern Tennessee, something like that.
Tony the Tiger Cornflakes Bowl or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, Fanball.
Well, yeah, I'm saying the other, just funny advertisers for the bowl game.
We can't beat the Pop-Tarts Bowl though. That's the problem.
Mayo Bowl's pretty good too.
Yeah. The Duke's Mayo Bowl where they dump the mayo on the coach. That's great. And gross at the same time.
Very gross. Very gross.
All right. That's it for this week's Fantasy Football Almost Daily. Make sure that you rate, review, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Trevor, I'll see you next week, and we'll get another show going.
Do it.
All right. See you guys later.
This was Fantasy Football Almost Daily. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts.